Jane Lawless, Director of Border Guardians and founding member of the Committee for Justice for Shawna Forde. The first thing you must know about Shawna is that she is innocent. She is entitled to the assumption of innocence under the American justice system, as is any other pretrial detainee, despite what the media wants to tell you. Shawna was falsely arrested. There is no physical evidence. Shawna has an alibi, and she was not present at the crime. Gina Gonzalez, the surviving victim, who saw the perpetrators, contradicts herself and keeps changing her story. She never even ID'd Shawna as the short, fat white woman who was with the trigger man during the crime. She was shown a lineup of women, including Shawna Forde, and could not pick her out of it as the perpetrator. Shawna's the victim of malicious prosecution by Pima County. Even the prosecutor knows there is no evidence. Rick Unklesby, who is the chief prosecutor on Shawna's case, retired rather than try this flimsy case. I regard that as very suspicious. Pima County has a political agenda to keep the Minutemen off the border in order to cover up the corruption in the Pima County Sheriff's Office and in federal agencies like DHS and Border Patrol. It's no coincidence that Pima County Sheriff Clarence Dupnik has refused to enforce SB 1070. After all, Tucson's been known as a sanctuary city for years. Everybody who lives there knows that. From the very beginning, Shawna was the target of Dupnik's white racial profiling with gender bias. She's been singled out by jail administration for especially sadistic treatment. Along with other women who happen to be white and black, she's held in solitary confinement and has Hispanic guards that verbally abuse and terrorize her every day. She says it's much, much worse since SB 1070 has been passed, and she's treated as if she passed the legislation all by herself. She's not treated like any other inmate. She's watched closely, and any misstep on her part is used as an opportunity for punishment, abuse, and psychological intimidation. All of her constitutional and civil rights have been violated. The staff steal her mail, books which are sent to her, and the guards even steal books from her cell. She is denied access to the law library, which interferes with her right to defend herself. And she gets very little access to the regular library, which, by the way, is filled with only books on murder and crime. On the website, Justice for Shawna Forde, we talk about how Shawna's being tortured in Pima County Jail. Keep this in mind. Shawna is a model inmate and obeys all jail rules. The punishment block, or the hole where Shawna has been kept, is typically used to discipline unruly inmates by subjecting them to solitary confinement for limited periods of time. Shawna spent a year in solitary, where she's not allowed to speak to anyone but her captors. The American Psychological Association has said that solitary confinement for prolonged periods of time constitutes torture. Not only that, recently the jail has begun putting her in full shackles, handcuffs, and leg irons during the half hour she gets to spend outside her cell to make phone calls and to take a shower. For 9 months, the jail violated federal law by not allowing her into the outside yard for exercise for a half hour. Now when she goes out, she's in full shackles. She can't exercise anyway. Here's an example of the cruel and unusual punishment to which she's been subjected. The only window in her cell that Shawna can look out of is in the door. It's been covered, and it's only uncovered for 6 hours a day. During that time, when it's uncovered and she can actually look out and see beyond her cell, she's been told that she may not be near the door and she may not even look out. She's also told she will be written up and likely disciplined by stripping out if she talks, sings, cries, whistles, laughs, sings, claps her hands, snaps her fingers, or indeed makes any human sound while in her cell. This is extreme extreme sensory deprivation and constitutes torture while in solitary confinement. They don't do this to the other prisoners unless they're white. None of Shawna's medical conditions are being treated, and in fact, some of them have been caused by solitary confinement. She has had psychotropic drugs forced on her without her consent. Shawna spent months stripped out naked in a cell with nothing in it. Not a towel, not a washcloth, not soap, not even her reading glasses, which she needs to defend herself. Because her jailers could do that to her. She likely will spend another 6 months at a minimum before she goes to trial. Shawna is a very well-behaved prisoner, and this is not necessary. This kind of cruel and unusual punishment is beyond belief and is completely anathema to the spirit of the Bill of Rights. You see, Pima County violates the law with impunity. They make their own rules down there, and they do it because they can get away with it. Pima is the most corrupt county in Arizona, and everyone in the legal system down there knows it. Media is always negative. They never allow for the possibility that a criminal defendant might be innocent. Shawna has gotten the worst publicity of all 3 defendants. Positive news doesn't get viewers or make people buy newspapers. The worst media that Shawna's getting is because she's a woman accused of a heinous crime, and that's really what it comes down to. Ever since 9/11, government and media have been joined at the hip. Whatever story government wants out, media will spin. And they facilitate tyranny and the dumbing down of the populace by doing this. I don't trust the media. I'm not media. I know the truth, and I am shocked by this travesty of justice. There is no coincidence between the following events. Obama was elected president and took office in 2009. In April of 2009, Janet Napolitano's Department of Homeland Security issued the assessment report on right-wing extremism. All of us are labeled extremists, whether we are political conservatives, Christians, veterans who have served their country, or patriots who believe in upholding the Constitution and who favor limited government. Glenn Spencer held a barbecue on May 30th of that year at his ranch on the border. There were expected to be a lot of Minutemen in attendance. In the early morning hours of May 30th, a drug cartel hit went down in Arivaca, killing 2 family members, including a child, and wounding her mother. It was time so that the Minutemen could be blamed for the hit. Less than 2 weeks later, 2 Minutemen got arrested for the murders. In March of 2010, the Huttery militia is arrested and charged with serious crimes. Minutemen Civil Defense Corps, the largest of the Border Watch organizations, dissolves. This is an unmistakably suspicious chain of events. This is no coincidence. It flows from the Obamanation's political agenda to get Minutemen off the border, to push amnesty for illegal aliens, and to destroy any power the American people might have by forming constitutional militias. If Shawna Forde had not been arrested, any convenient Minuteman on the border of Pima County and Mexico would have been framed instead and railroaded like she's being railroaded. The county controlled by Mexico needed to make a statement. Minutemen are not wanted in Pima County. We want to keep all our graft and corruption to ourselves. Shawna was starting a documentary film project to expose drug smuggling and human trafficking on the border. What might she have discovered had she succeeded? Pima County and many others who had a stake in the graft and corruption there had to get her and the Minutemen off the border. She was interfering with their mordida. Pima County chose to make an example of Shawna by opening up a slot in a murder case and just inserting her in it. When my book, Blonde on the Border, about the Arivaca massacre and everybody involved in it is published, it's gonna knock your socks off. The real story will be told, and it won't be a pretty one. It will be shocking.